This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. We're headed to the Wildlife Conservatory. So I would like to continue the theme we've been speaking about regarding Tzar Balei Chayim, and more specifically, animal rights. And I just want to put into perspective, perhaps from a Torah perspective, what the view of animal rights is and the grave danger of overemphasizing animal rights. The Sefer HaIkrim, written by Rabbi Yosef Albo, has really a magnificent presentation of the two outlooks on life of Kayin and Hevel, ultimately showing how they were both in error and how that the world did not come to correction until Shais comes to the scene. In the opinion of the Sefer HaIkrim, one of the great Rishonim, Rabbi Yosef Albo, he brings that what's the reason Kayin brought a carbon from Mipri Ha'adama? Kayin said to himself, Kayin recognized that man's superiority over animal was very minimal. Kayin said, the only advantage that man has over animal is the animal will eat whatever presents itself. The animal is not going to necessarily look for better tasting grass or better herbage or better plants. Whatever presents itself to the animal will partake of. So therefore man's superiority over animal is only that man could prepare better herbs, better grass. At this point in time, man was not permitted to eat meat. So therefore Kayin's carbon, his demonstration of what God bestowed upon man, was Mipri Ha'adama. In his opinion, man was not allowed to kill animal, even to bring a carbon. Kayin felt that man and animal were basically on the same level. On the other hand, Hevel understood the superiority of man over animal, but even in the world of Hevel felt man was not permitted to kill animal, only for the sake of a sacrifice. Otherwise, just to eat an animal, that would be considered murder. Now Hevel was more on the right track, meaning Hevel understood man's superiority to animal, but he still felt man was not permitted to indiscriminately kill animal, only for the sake of bringing a carbon to Hashem. Says the Sefer HaIkrim, even though Hevel was more correct, but because his attitude was more likely to lead people astray, namely man was greater than animal, just man was not permitted to slaughter animal, God allowed Hevel to be killed because his attitude was corrupt. However, when Hevel brought a carbon, Hashem turned to the carbon of Hevel and not Kayin, because at least Hevel recognized the superiority of man. What happened? Kayin makes the following corrupt calculation. Kayin sees Hevel brings the carbon, he slaughters an animal, so Kayin says, wow, murder must be permitted. If Hevel brings a carbon and he kills an animal and God accepted it, it never occurred to Kayin, well, maybe man is superior to animal. All Kayin sees is Hevel killing an animal and God accepts it, so it must be murder is permitted. So Kayin said, if Hevel can kill an animal, I'm allowed to kill Hevel. And that is why Kayin became a murderer. In other words, says the Sefer HaIkrim, animal right and murder are the same. Because once a person takes animal rights too far, and man and animal become equal, that is where human life loses value. And it's interesting, says the Sefer HaIkrim, when God comes to Kayin and he says, why did you kill your brother? All Kayin took from that is not man is superior to animal. He took from that, murder is prohibited. And I can't kill man, and I can't kill animal. He never got the message that man is superior to animal. Not until Shais is born, says the Sefer HaIkrim, does the pasuk say, Vayoyled b'demusai ketsalmai. Only by the birth of Shais does it say man is created in the image of God. Because until Shais, people never recognize the superiority of man. What is the superiority of man? And that man is created in the image of Hashem. And it doesn't say when Kayin was born, he was born in the image of God, because nobody recognized that. It doesn't say by Hevel that he was created in the image of Hashem. It wasn't recognized. not until the birth of Shes. I want to share with you, I once said over the Sefer HaIkrim, many years ago, someone in our shul, I remember his name Josh Schechter, he pointed out, look at the amazing Midah K'neged Midah, because ultimately what happened to Kayin? 7 generations later, his great-great-great-grandson, Lemech, is going hunting, and his son, and Lemech was blind, so his son said, shoot! And Lemech shoots! And Lemech mistook Kayin for an animal. You see what happens? You see the Midah K'neged Midah? Because Kayin did not recognize the superiority of man over animal, his punishment was quid pro quo, Midah K'neged Midah. He was mistaken for an animal, and ultimately he was killed like an animal. And the lesson, says the Sefer HaIkrim, is that while Tsar Balei Chaim is the Oraisa, it is a fundamental yesod that man is superior to animal because man was created in the image of the Creator himself. So that's the limud of the episode of Kayin and Hevel. So before you go to a wildlife conservatory and you see the millions of dollars invested in it, recognize where your tzedakah money ought to go, and important as it is to keep animals safe, there are much more important things to worry about in this world.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.